Hello, everyone. I hope you've been doing fine. Today, we're going to talk about neuroplasticity and its importance in the learning process in football, soccer, the importance that it has in modern training in modern football, soccer, and how we're going to organize the sessions, okay, and what role it plays in neuroplasticity. So, definition neuroplasticity refers to physiological changes in the brain that occur as a result of the interactions with our environment. From the moment our brain begins to develop itself in the uterus until we die, the connections between the neurons in our brain reorganize themselves to our adaptive needs. This dynamic process allows us to learn and adapt according to our experiences. Neuroplasticity is a process which allows neurons to increase their connections with other neurons in stable manner due to experience, learning, and sensorial and cognitive stimulation. The process by which the brain is always reorganizing itself throughout our lives. These are not unique events, but rather are things that constantly happen in our brain. Synapses are constantly being generated, appearing and disappearing in our cells or neurons. The brain is not a pile of neurons that always does the same thing, do the same thing wherever they are. This is a famous neuroscientist, a Portuguese famous neuroscientist, Antonio Damasio. Okay. Design tasks based in the principles of neuroplasticity. So, as you know, we mentioned before, neuroplasticity has a huge influence in how we see the athlete or the footballer as compared to many decades ago, and how it has transformed the methodology and the training. So, as we always mention, we must find or create tasks or exercises where the principles of neuroplasticity is contemplated and not copy other coaches. Most of the time, training in contexts which are very different, where it will be very difficult to reach our objective. So this happens a lot. You know, you're going to see that you're going to see in YouTube a lot of channels where you're going to see exercises, a passing exercise from Ancelotti, and a shooting exercise from Nagelsmann, and a rondo by Luis Enrique or Klopp, and you know, a possession exercise by Guardiola, and so on. So the thing with this, it's okay. I mean, sometimes some tasks you can adapt to your needs, to the team that you have, but you always have to remember that the coaching, the player that you're coaching, most of the time it's not going to be in the same level as those coaches. So the training has to be different. Of course, a task or a certain exercise you can adapt to your team, but most of the times, 95% of the times, these tasks or exercises do not adapt to players, for example, that are developing, okay? Neither has it happened in the past where the tasks or exercises only were done according to one dimension, the physical dimension. Many years ago, everything was planned and executed according to the physical dimension, where the most important component of the coaching staff was the physical trainer, and all of the work was done according to the physical dimension. Now we know that this doesn't work, not only due to the experience, but also because football has taken a scientific path in the 80s, in Porto, done by Professor Victor Frade, and in Barcelona by Francisco Ceirulo, that showed us that this is not it, that this is not the correct way that we were taking. Today, we're governed by another paradigm, the complexity paradigm. In today's equation, we not only have the stimulus, the fatigue, but also the adaptation specifically of the organism. How do we promote neuroplasticity in the tasks or exercises? What I'm trying to show, especially young coaches, is that these principles of neuroplasticity, if you really look at it in the coaching courses and most of them, you're going to see that these principles apply in almost all cases, okay? And when you're going to create your task, you just have to look, so they have these principles, okay? One is the repetition. So we must try to, in the task of exercise, so that there are many repetitions, okay? So you have to look for the players, for our players, to have many repetitions. In tactical precision, it is one of our methodological principles, and it's called systematic repetition, okay? So you're always gonna try for the player in complexity, okay? Because it's not mechanical, and then we're talking about complex real game environment tasks of exercises. We're going to try to, so that the player gets many repetitions over and over, okay? Simply mentioning something so simple like the more we do something, the better we do it. Repetition is the mother of perfection, and according to recent studies, this is the reality. Okay, so this is in tactile precision. This is one of the methodological principles. Okay, intensity. The more intense the stimulus, the greater the demand over our organism. When we mention intensity, we're not all talking about physical intensity, but mainly mental intensity. We must prepare our footballers so that they get used to carry out behavior of high nervous and mental intensity. This at high levels of emotional and physical stress. When the athlete does it in a game-related context, that stimulus, when he or she sees it in a match, it will not be anything new or something strange to him or her. So if we train at high intensity, when we talk about intensity, we're not only talking about physical intensity, because most of the people associate to physical intensity. There was recently an interview by Rifaria, the assistant coach of Mourinho, talking about this, that the intensity really has a more mental aspect than a physical one. Okay, when we're talking about intensity, if we train our players to train at high intensity, when they face this high intensity in the matches, it's not gonna be something new. They're gonna be used to it. Okay, so it's gonna be easier for them to perform. Okay, to have a high level of performance. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one, which is the timing or the coordination. Okay, so tasks and exercises must try to reach motor efficiency. Okay, we can define it as the neurons that start together connect together. Okay, before I mainly made this video so that you can see why we do not train like many years ago. Running around the pitch without the ball. We would have long periods of preseason. We would have 2 months of preseason where we barely would see a football or a soccer ball, and we would do a lot of physical training outside the pitch and in the gym. Okay, so these are the reasons mainly why and how training has been transformed. Okay. Timing or coordination, as I mentioned before, we're looking for motor efficiency, okay? And we can define it as the neurons that start together, connect together. When we start a movement, certain group muscles that are activated by different parts of the brain. The more we execute a specific movement, the more efficient that movement becomes for our body to execute it. Tasks must stimulate efficiency in the movements and game intelligence, okay? So this one is number 3, which is the timing or the coordination. Difficulty, okay? Tasks or exercises must have an optimal level of difficulty. So they can neither be too difficult nor too easy. So you have to find a way to always create stress, okay? So that the player solves the problem, okay? And he or she is able to do this over and over in the session. So when the matches come, you don't have to. They're going to be able to solve the problems that they're going to have, or you can just guide them. Just telling them 1 or 2 things, and they will find it by themselves. Recently, there was a player here in Uruguay in First Division in Nacional that I saw on Twitter, an account where they talked about another coach that coached that player in First Division here, and he was talking about how that player solved many problems, tactical problems. And of course, when he worked with us for 2 years in the club, in the First Division club, in the academy, this was one of the main objectives. Okay, so they're able to recognize a lot of tactical. So we would train according to we would do tactical prioritization, a lot of tactical information. So these players, when they reach First Division, they already know how to solve problems that they're going to face in the matches. Okay, so the tasks or exercises, they must have enough complexity so that there will be an adaptation, but not too much where a footballer will not be able to solve them. So it always has to be kind of hard, but not too hard, not too easy. It always has to be a challenge for the player, okay? Because if it isn't, it will not offer as a stimulus, okay? So we want always to be for them to adapt to this certain situation, okay? If the task or exercise is too simple, footballer will solve it with ease and exercise will not work as stimulus. There will not be an adaptation or learning. If the task is too complex, he or she will not be able to overcome it. There won't be an adaptation as well. This is where we must rely on guided discovery in order to guide, but not to give answers. So in the task, we always try to guide them and ask them, but not tell them the answer. Try for them to solve it, okay? Of course, we're not going to waste the training, okay? This is why we're going to guide, okay? We're not going to waste too much time also if we see that the task is too difficult, too complex, we're going to try to help them out a little bit, but always for them to try to discover the situation. Okay? This is where we must rely on guided discovery in order to guide, but not to give answers, in order to guide that discovery when where it is very important that they discover the solutions. Okay? Specificity. We must practice and execute tasks and exercises that are specific of the sport we practice. Okay, many people talk about specificity as a principle of methodological principle, and it really is not. It's a supra principle. Okay, so it's not a methodological principle, specificity, but it's always present. It's always there. You know, so. As Jose Mourinho says, you will never see a pianist training running around a piano, okay? Plasticity will occur as a response to the specific stimulus that is trained. Here is where modern training has changed the most. Before, due to the fact that football, soccer was planned and controlled by physical trainer and the physical dimension, we would have general periods where footballers would not perform any specific training. Footballer must train in real game situations or context-related exercises, okay? And prominence or meaning, okay? We must execute or perform tasks or exercises that have meaning or can have a positive effect on the athlete. Memory is selective, and the more it is related to knowledge and its consequences, the earlier it will be to be recalled, okay? We must try for the footballers to solve the different problematic situations. It is not so relevant the name of the concept, but rather that they understand and are able to find solutions and solve them. So it doesn't. Sometimes you're going to see that the players are not able to say the name of the concept, but they execute in the pitch, and this is, in my opinion, the most relevant thing. Okay, and of course, whenever you're teaching, okay, when you're working either with semi-professional, professional, or amateur young athletes, the more meaningful, okay, the learning, the easier they will remember it. Okay, because memory, as it says there, it's selective. Okay, so the more meaning the training, the sessions have for them, the easier it is for them to recall it and perform it over and over in the matches. Okay. Okay, so basically these are the six principles of neuroplasticity that we have that have heavily influenced modern training in football and soccer. And if you have these six principles in all the sessions, tasks that you do, you won't have any problems. You're gonna be once you start, you're gonna be doing fine. Once you start, and for example, if you don't have intensity, a team, a player, they're gonna be able to handle it a certain time. There's gonna be a time where they're not gonna have intensity. So once the intensity is lost, that's when you stop the exercise, for example, okay? And so on. So all these principles that we have in neuroplasticity have a huge importance. And rather than copying tasks or exercises, I always suggest young coaches to take into the principles, take into account the principles, and there you can create your own information, okay? Because this is going to be better suited for your playing model and how your team is going to play and how they're going to perform. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoy the video. I hope to see you again next video, and take care. Please, if you haven't subscribed or liked, please do. Bye-bye.